Thank you for tuning in to Broken Brilliance, featuring entrepreneurs, professionals, community leaders, and other successful individuals from all walks of life that had to be broken, crushed, or stripped down to the studs to excel beyond measure and brilliantly rise up and walk in their purpose. Learn what is really real. Receive tips, tools, and resources you can use today so that you, too, can be brilliantly broken.
Welcome to the inaugural season of the Broken Brilliance podcast. Come on in and take a seat. In fact, get comfortable. My name is Tawanda Livingston, your guide for your Broken Brilliance journey. I'm humbled and honored to bring to you this season stories, testimonies, praise reports, resources, and gems of greatness that will activate the wealth warrior in you, the success savage in you, or the prosperous prophet in you. These comeback stories are from folks that looked failure in the eye and said, give it your best shot, because I refuse to go back to where I was. I refuse to worry about where I'm going, and I'm determined not to stand still in silence. These individual stories you will get to hear and hopefully learn from are way makers, water walkers, hope dealers, and faith walkers. These individuals have successfully turned their casualties into catalysts of courage. They've turned their pain into purpose and even turned their worst devastations to destiny-building successes. These individuals refuse to be disturbed, distracted, or disrupted because they knew what was on the other side of their challenges, failures, losses, and sufferings were their endless possibilities, their successes, their destiny, their prosperity, and life-giving and sustaining purpose. So if you aspire to be great, if you are motivated to move differently in life, move with expectation, and leave a legacy of greatness from the womb to the tomb, my friends, you are tuning in to the right podcast so you too can be brilliantly broken. Our guest today means more to me than earthly words can express. Our guest today has been in the trenches with me, neck deep in the trenches. She saved my life literally, and she is brilliant, resilient, courageous, and one of the most smartest, highly competent women I know. She has been a mentor, counselor, coach, and friend. Her loyalty has been unwavering. She is an outstanding businesswoman. She is an impeccable woman of God. The way her mind works amazes all who come in contact with her. She is a compassionate leader. She is committed to serving and giving back to her community. She is a staunch advocate for causes that impact the well-being of women and minorities. I am honored to know her and to be in her circle of influence. Now, I need you to think of the world's top businesswoman. No, let's scratch that. Think of the world's top business person and multiply that person's knowledge, skills, and abilities or talents by infinity, and you will have today's guest. No bull, she is the realest deal. Miss Lynda M. Dorman is the CEO and co-founder of Orange Wall Enterprises, a safety solution company that was created in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Their motto is bringing safety solutions to the masses, serves as their top priority. Ms. Dorman established her PPE business early in the fight against COVID-19 under her company, Dorman Group Holdings. She was delighted to have another woman business owner, Carolyn Howe, join the effort, resulting in forming a new company, Orange Wall Enterprises. Together, they were savvy enough to be the first minority women business owners to sign a national distribution and licensing agreement to private label temperature reading stations using artificial intelligence, robotics technology, empowered by Intel i3 and Intel i7 processors. As an entrepreneur, Ms. Dorman also delivers business solutions under Dorman Group Holdings, a certified minority business enterprise consultant firm focused on supplier diversity, procurement and sourcing strategies, information technology project management, and compliance management. Ms. Dorman is a native Washingtonian and has earned her Master of International Management and a Master of Business Administration from the University of Maryland Global Campus. She is the mother of two awesomely amazing teenage girls who in their own right are future entrepreneurs, and the legacy continues. Ms. Dorman has received and earned many awards, rewards, and recognition over her career. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Lynda Dorman to the Broken Brilliance podcast. Thank you for joining me, Lynda.
Wow. I wish your listeners could see the tears rolling down my cheek, because that was probably the most outstanding recap of, I'm thinking, who is that? And then somewhere in my spirit, because sometimes we just take ourselves and we just minimize. And I realized that the war wounds, the brokenness, the brilliance, the gray hair, the lines, the tears that I have right now in my thought, they've been all earned. And I can tell you, I just so appreciate what you just said, and I receive it. And most of it, I could just say the exact same to you, because what I've come to learn is an iron sharpens iron.
Amen.
And you are iron for sure. So I'm just so delighted to be on your podcast and to support your endeavors, because you are a woman on the move, and you are an influencer of significance. And so what you have to say, I'd want to be in your shoes to say everything I know and love and aspire and just feel committed to as it relates to your endeavors, just a heartfelt commitment, because we have got to do this all together, a community of broken brilliance women who understand that's such a beautiful term, but thank you for inviting me, and thank you for having me, and thank you to your listeners who love you and those who will learn and grow as a result of your podcast and all the other guests that you will eventually have on your show. Congratulations for this.
Generous with your words, and I'm crying now. So you have me crying. I'm so happy this is not video. People see my makeup running and looking.
Yes.
I have that Viola Davis ugly cry. So I'm happy that
never ugly, never ever ugly. Beautiful in spirit, because it's so heartfelt. And see, people don't know that when we talk about our relationship and what we've experienced, they don't sometimes you go through the trenches and you come out. And you look back and you realize we were so blessed to go through those trenches together, because that meant that as one needed to be pulled and brought up, the other had the strength to do it, and then vice versa. And then eventually you come up and you come out and you go forward and you don't stop. Your tracks, begin to merge up, and you realize this is where the journey of life really is so valuable and so tangible. That it causes you to do nothing but want to give back more seeds, so that the future women and individuals who are seeking to be definers of their own lives and therefore influencers of others, that we have sown something of value, of a legacy. Right there in our own experiences are the keys to success for the next generation.
Yes. And you're so, what a powerful, powerful statement you just made. And so because folks cannot appreciate our relationship, let me just say that when you have two dynamic, powerful, compassionate, thoughtful, competent women walking through the fire together, yes, they make this torch, but they will never burn, And in fact, we're leaving a trail behind us so that other women like ourselves can walk through and thrive and not have to go through what we had to go through in order to be successful in corporate America or in business. Lynda, you have to share with the audience today, how did Lynda Dorman end up being an entrepreneur?
Well, that's a great question. And I think sometimes we have to honor the essence of who we are, because I believe strongly that we come to the planet Earth with all the DNA of exactly what we're supposed to be doing. Now, sometimes we get derailed because life in our childhood, in our early years, in our middle years, or whatever years you are beginning to live out your authentic self, we have that DNA already programmed. And so there is a scripture that says that, our gifts, there will be room made for our gifts. And that is if we actually take what I call the representative that we learn to become through our experiences early on that actually are not authentic representatives of who we are.
Mm-hmm.
And so I came to become an entrepreneur because I come from a legacy of entrepreneurs. So it's baked into my actual DNA of my genes. My grandmother was an amazing caterer and cook. And I don't mean the kind that just baked of this and a baked of that. She was a Cleveland Browns football fan.
Yes.
And had concessions, and she had clients of significance in a time where Black women did not have opportunities like she was able to develop. She was self-defined, and she was self-motivated, and she was self-sufficient. That was my maternal mother. My mother also came to the planet with a DNA baked in entrepreneurship. And as a matter of fact, not only did she have her own businesses, and with my father owned real estate as part of those businesses, she went on to become a civil servant to help other women by becoming the deputy director of the Small Business Administration Office on Women during the Carter administration, in which women were designated as a protected class to give them those opportunities for a level playing field. So when she retired, she passed on the baton and said, regardless of where you are in your career, if you work for someone else, always have your side gig. And I realized that she meant when you finally decide to become your authentic self, that side gig would become the reality of who you were always meant to be. And that's exactly what happened. I took a chance. I made the decision. I put a brand together. I put a clear core services together that I enjoy and want to do. So my passion is there, my purpose feels right, and I began to do the hard work because it doesn't come now. It comes, your DNA is baked in, but you have to work it.
Yeah.
And I took that seed and I started working what I had planted, and I went to the field and I started to just become who I thought I needed to become, and that is a true entrepreneur, creating opportunities not only for myself, but for the team that works with me and for the beneficiaries of our work, meaning the customers and clients that benefit from our services, and then demonstrate that to the next legacy. My daughters, 13 and 15, have their own businesses too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Kidpreneurs, teenpreneurs, young womenpreneurs, mompreneurs, everyone is born, from my standpoint, with an entrepreneurship mindset. You just have to tap into it and really pursue it. I like the idea of the side gig really being your purpose. Your purpose is in that state of becoming, and so you have it on the side, but eventually the dream will be fulfilled. I love that. The DNA of your grandmother and your mother, I mean, the times where they were advocating or being an entrepreneur was not welcomed, to say the least. But yet and still they did not let fear stand in their way. They were women who said, what glass ceiling, and even if it is, I'm still going to be successful. What would you say was the number one lesson you learned from your mother and grandmother based on their ambition and their tenacity?
The number one, it's in one word, actually two words, never compromise.
Oh, I love it.
And therefore, what is born out of never compromising are the values that we can take into the experiences of our life, as well as into building our businesses on them rock solid. And those attributes are things like integrity, accountability, commitment, and focus. Those are some. Because out of that not compromising, you put yourself in a position to know thyself and therefore your boundaries and who comes into the boundary and who needs to stay on the outside. You know that you will not do certain things in order to achieve that compromise your integrity or your value, the whole value plate And so I watched them lose opportunities. I watched them as Black women in a segregated time frame with racism at an all-time high, with the laws of the country not supporting women. I watched them never compromise their integrity. Therefore, they found a way out of no way to do what they had already been programmed to do from the time that they were born all the way through to their successes. So I think that's the number one thing I took away from never compromise. It's better to lose a deal than to compromise in order to win one. That's basically how it ran down to me, and that's what they passed on to me.
And I love it. I love that never compromise, especially as women of color, Black women. I think that society tries to reprogram us from birth to compromise. Not only compromise our dreams and our greatness, but compromise our bodies and ourselves, our emotional and spiritual and soul. What are your thoughts about that, Lynda?
Oh, my goodness gracious. I have so many thoughts. My head can't begin to get all the thoughts through my mouth. So they may be coming through my ears, my nose, my eyeballs. It's critical. It's so very critical that we as women understand that we have been marginalized into a state of not even recognizing if we're compromising or not.
Absolutely.
We have been romanced into a concept that beauty is for sale, or that our intelligence belongs to someone else, or that our achievements, even what we produce, are not worthy of us having ownership to them. That's crazy. And so when we talk about things just like in the workplace, compromise in terms of our body, oh, my goodness gracious, I've had experiences where as a fundraising professional, a professional solicitor for businesses and organizations, I have been compromised to say, if you give me this, and you know what this is, your listeners don't have to go too far to understand, let me say, then I will go ahead and make a donation to your organization in the level that you're asking. And let me say the last time that happened was many years ago, and I had tears in my eyes, and I asked the person, I said to him, tell me about why you feel that I would want to engage in that way on behalf of my organization, in which I'm trying to raise funds for young African-American scholarships. He said, well, let's just talk about something else. And as we talked about something else, I decided to put forth my personal issues and get to know him so I could be strategic and breaking it down to him in another way. He wound up telling me about his one daughter, his only child, and how proud he was. And he just went lamented about, not lamented, but he was just so excited to tell me. As I egged him on, and I said, well, she must sound like she's beautiful. She's got a great career. And he went on and on and on to talk about her achievements. And he, as a proud father, he ran down every characteristic, attribute, accomplishments, and the things that he had connected her into. And I finally said to him at a very strategic time, I said, well, then I want you to consider this. If she was sitting here in my seat and met you saying the same thing you just said to me, how would you feel? And what would you want your daughter to say?
Love it. Love it.
He stopped, and he then had tears in his eyes.
Wow.
He said, I apologize. I can't imagine my daughter ever facing a question and being in a position to compromise herself like that. That's the father's worst fear. I said, well, then I'm going to tell you, you're going to need to unplant that seed that you just put on your daughter.
Wow. What a teachable moment.
It was a very teachable moment because this was a multimillionaire, and he wound up making a donation to the organization. But I left that meeting hyperventilating when I got to the car and bursting out in tears because I decided I could no longer do that kind of a job because that had been commonplace. And that's when I decided that I was going to start my business and I was going to do things my way. So I started Lycom Enterprises as my very first business that day.
Wow. So that never compromised. Even when you were sitting there with tears, you were emotionally astute enough to reverse the situation.
Yes.
Not many people would have had that emotional intelligence to turn that situation around. Even though it impacted you so significantly, but let me just say this to our listeners. Crying is not a sign of weakness. It's actually a sign of strength. It's actually a cleansing mechanism, emotional cleansing mechanism people use to, get themselves together so they can pursue whatever they're going to pursue. But back to this situation, that never compromised. I love the fact that you gave the listeners a story to support how you never compromised your ethics, your body, your spirit, your soul, and that moment came into your life as a catalyst for change for you that pushed you into entrepreneurship.
And I can share with you that the reason why, and I would hope that your listeners can really, particularly as we go through this difficult season of our society and our global society and the COVID, is that you can no longer risk not failing. You should fail fast and then go forward fast. And we sometimes get into the compromise, which means you're disrespecting the process, actually, of success. You are disrespecting your own ability to be successful or to fail and learn from that failing because we want to risk losing. We don't want to risk losing. And I had to right then and there risk losing the potential, even losing my job by not coming back with a yes, we'll give you, someone who said, because I did not want to lose my own personal essence. I knew that day or that job, if I lost or was fired, or I couldn't achieve my goal, I had to still be with me, which was the consistency of my experience. I had to still walk with Lynda Dorman. And so I challenge and I support your listeners in recognizing that we're all going to be faced with risks. And those risks will either build up your confidence to achieve and to make good and viable decisions, or the risk that you succumb to will absolutely serve as a place to begin compromising on all of your values that you did, that those listeners and you and me determine are important.
Absolutely. And I also agree, Lynda. I subscribe to the mantra that you need to fail fast, fail often, and fail forward. And you're one choice away from a different life. And sometimes, either by inspiration or desperation, right, you're pushed into your purpose. Yes. However, I do believe that people in our society, and when I say our society, I mean globally, women are being, like you said, romanced and lulled into complacency and comfort to the point that they're in this nod state where they do not know, they are even compromising not only themselves but their daughters and their nieces. What would you say is something that we need today, even in the midst of COVID-19 and the pandemic? We're recording this podcast, and what is the one or more things, I should say. I shouldn't say one thing. That's not fair. But what would you say are the top 3 things that women need to do today to pull us out of this despondency, this disenfranchisement and discouragement we're experiencing, economic downturn, social and civil unrest? All of those things are culminating, as well as the pandemic on top of that. What would you say are the top 3 things that women need to do right now as a demonstration of never compromising?
Yes, thank you for that question, because if we as women in this year, in the last 6 months, have not actually gone through an introspection to ask ourselves that question, the benefit, if there can be one, if I can say it in that way, of what has happened, COVID-19, then you're going to miss the opportunity to change, because COVID-19 should have been and should be a changing scenario in everyone's life, starting first and foremost with our health. We have learned that those who are compromised more by this opportunistic disease called SARS, CoV-2, and we nicknamed it COVID-19, attacks those who are the least healthy and attacks those who are very healthy, but it's opportunistic. And that means if you already have compromised immune systems, If you have, and I trust me on this, I am in this category because I have eaten myself into a happy state, but now I got to really address it. Any slight obesity. If you have any issues relating to anything else, high blood pressure, those things need to be top of mind, not as a second, or third, or fourth priority, because that is the only way you're going to. That's the number one thing. And I've talked to, coming from a healthcare background, I've talked to quite a few of the clinical individuals in the clinical world where this is where particularly communities of color, brown and black, business women and men are not going to the doctors, not keeping up their doctor's appointments, not even thinking about it, because some who are winning in this season are pushing themselves harder to win, and those who are not winning in this season are in another state of mind, and that brings to the health issue around mental health and the isolation. It is time to be honest with ourselves. So that would be the second. So that is health, and then be honest. And honest meaning, are you living in the life that you really want? Do you understand what you're doing with your life right now? So that means an introspection view. That means clearing out the cobwebs of your thought processes that no longer serve you. That means looking at your hard skill training. Do you need to be retrained? Do you need more information to be able to be successful and pivot into new careers? Are you happy, or are you still doing the same thing you did before, living a life that supports getting your groceries but doesn't support feeding your heart and your mind? That's the honest. Thirdly, it is time for us to build personal and community wealth in a serious and methodical way. We have, as a community, particularly community of color, but as a United States society, we are highly dependent on other nations for the very things that have become not just commodities, but essential commodities. And therefore, and having now been in this business, particularly what we're doing now with our company, our dependencies on other economies to produce the essential things that we need, the essential foods, the essential equipment, the essential technologies, the essential medicines, is unbelievably difficult to fathom.
Wow.
And unless you're in the businesses that I'm referring to, it's distant from you to understand the impact on our economy. So we have to build independent and societal wealth in a very and vast different way. And that means to become very wise and very smart about your money, not just the adage save your money for retirement, but how are you building strategies around wealth building. Even if you have $10 a month, the concept of compound interest enables you to teach your children what happens in 20 years. How many hundreds of thousands of dollars will you have if you are consistent? We didn't learn that back in the day because parents were trying to survive by making sure we had food and clothing and we had equal opportunity to education and recreation. Now it's our requirement in 2020 to be a participant in our actual economy, not just as a consumer, but a full-fledged contributor in a significant way, just like what you're doing with all the businesses that you counsel, you talk to, you invest in your time, your sweat equity, that you guide. I live off of your emails every morning to see what is the latest at Tawanda Livingston. I mean, if I don't see that email, then I'm feeling like I'm not having some information in my day that's credible. That's the first couple of things that I look at every day. I don't even look at the news before I look at your emails, because you are delivering critical, life-saving, business-saving information that's going to connect up. And I often think to myself, how is she getting this information, and where and when? It's just fascinating to me. So health, be honest, and building wealth. Those would be some of the top three right now in COVID that I would say.
That is powerful, powerful. And when we talk about wealth building, people focus on monetary or material success when they talk about wealth. But wealth is bigger than that. It's a part of a system. And that system is integrated with other systems. Like, for example, our economic system is tied to our political system, which ties to our medical system, it just goes on and on. So what other things go into wealth besides material success, from your observation?
Livingston Works supports businesses with leveraging supplier diversity programs by assessing government, public, and private sector contracting opportunities. Livingston Works does more than just access these opportunities. They help you get in, stay in, until you win, and winning becomes a habit for your business. If you're a business interested in making winning a habit, contact Tawanda Livingston today by visiting livingstonworks.com or email Tawanda at tawanda@livingstonworks.com.
People focus on monetary or material success when they talk about wealth. But wealth is bigger than that. It's a part of a system. And that system is integrated with other systems. Like, for example, our economic system is tied to our political system, which ties to our medical system, it just goes on and on. So what other things go into wealth besides material success, from your observation?
Oh, absolutely. When you reach this particular stage of your life, if you've not had a spiritual awakening through either tragedy or something remarkably satisfying as accomplishing, like a college degree, or you haven't witnessed others achieving where you feel so proud and excited for their stuff, there's something, I want to make sure that you're alive and well. And so the spiritual health is critical. I just can't make a move without recognizing the spirit that relies in me. And I call that the Holy Spirit. I am a Christian, and, we know that there are many names and faiths. Whatever individuals are moved by, find something outside of yourself to be in a place of peace. I have come as a result of that spirituality and my Christian walk and my belief so clearly in Scripture as a daily opportunity. I've kind of broken it down to, oh my goodness, what is this problem? Oh, let me go to the Bible and see what God says about that. I'm going to tell you, I have in COVID-19, but over the years, I've gone back and forth into this, learning to trust the voice inside of me.
Wow.
And really understanding that it has been a guider. I'm going to tell you, it has saved me just in this year from the worst business deals that you could imagine, the most most compromising, scandalous individuals who are looking for a quick buck off of the hardships of our healthcare system, or the sadness of the families affected by COVID. It's startling to me. But I thank God that He has made me have that discerning spirit, as He's given to everyone.
Yes.
But the critical nature is you got to learn to listen. It's a muscle that you got to practice to listen it and put it into action.
Spirit, that's a hard muscle to really develop, especially when we are coming from it from a selfish standpoint. Or I wouldn't say selfish, but, selfish in a way, and then also a perfection standpoint. Or I can do this on my own standpoint. And I say that to say, because I'm speaking from my self situation, my own situation, that we learn to block out that intuition, that Holy Spirit, that guide, because I truly believe that all of this that we're experiencing, God is in the midst. He is working it out. He's in the midst. He's in the midst of our lives, each and every one of us. He holds us all precious in that concern. And He has sent us the helper. Jesus sent the helper, right? He sent the helper, the guide, and the comforter, and that's the Holy Spirit. And because we are in this, especially in this time, I can't speak other than outside of my generation because I was not there for my mother and her mother. But for this time, we are in this attention economy that we're being overwhelmed with information from all different sources, false prophets, false leaders, unethical leaders, people that we trust that we shouldn't have trusted. All of that is clogging the listening spirit, clogging the ability to really hear the word and to be enlightened. So, Lynda, what would you say in reference to being in this attention economy, being all these mass distractions and disruptions and all this information coming to people and women and children all different kinds of ways. What is one way folks can chase God, hear God?
Well, hear God, chase God. I firmly believe when I stated at the top, iron sharpens iron. You really, particularly, some things you just can't do on your own until you're ready to do on your own and get stronger. So finding that trusted partner, friend, colleague, whomever, and you were that to me, and we just, oh my goodness gracious, to band together and speak openly. We're blessed in the United States of America to be in a position to speak openly about our faith and not be persecuted or jailed or even worse, be killed in some other parts of the world. So we should be in a position to seek out those who share and have like-minded spirits in terms of their faith and focus, and be in a place of be humbled enough to ask for support.
Absolutely.
And to say, I'm interested in learning. I'm interested in growing. I don't know the whole Bible from front to back, but I trust that others may have a little bit more knowledge, or they may have another place. So oftentimes I will call up in the midst of, a challenge, just like I did you not too long ago. And I said, I need a scripture. This is my situation. I need a word, and I think that you may have it. And so we just start to talk. So that's where the iron sharpens iron. Sometimes we don't want to be vulnerable in front of other people. We don't want to seem like we don't have our act together, or that, we appear less than strong.
Yeah.
We are made weak. We are made stronger in our weaknesses, is what I want to say.
Yeah.
Because once we get and gain and grow, then that strength then moves up to the next realm. So I have learned, and it's a hard thing to do. Your listeners have to understand, none of this came just like yesterday. I mean, I had to work at this process of becoming my authentic self, and part of that was to become humble before women that could do and say and have achieved better, more, and can give me the guidance that I need. So not just as a mentor, but as someone who can honestly say, Lynda, I'm going to give you the real deal, and I need you to be open to hear, not a criticism, not even a constructive criticism, but an observation.
Yeah.
And be in a position of appreciation that someone loved me and respected me enough to pour into me. There's no question about it. And because of that, I like to do the same and pass that gift on, because it is a gift to others. Iron sharpens iron. There's just no other principle that I can think of.
Your answer is like right on point, Lynda. And I would say, and I've said this many times, that asking for help is a sign of strength. In that you know yourself enough that you know what your capacity is, and being able to tap into someone else's capacity. By collaborating together, you increase. There's so many increases that come with collaboration, and I truly believe that. And I believe that we were put on this earth to collaborate, to be unified and work in unity, to not only sustain our lives, ensure that we are thriving. One of the points that you had made, Lynda, in reference to helping and extending help to other women, what I know for sure, and this is just my experience, is that I truly believe in giving more to the universe than I receive, absolutely. And I will bend over backwards, and I have literally bent over backwards to help people succeed, because I believe in helping them be successful. I'm automatically successful. However, not everybody subscribes to that concept because of the society, the capitalist society that we are a part of, that says that in order for you to be on top, somebody else has to be on the bottom.
Yes.
What are your thoughts about I have to hold her back in order for me to be successful, or if I'm going to be the first woman, I'm going to be the only woman, that syndrome of the onlys? What are your thoughts about that?
Listen, the only thing that you can claim as only is that you came into this world all by yourself, and you will go out of this world all by yourself. That's the only thing that you will only do.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we think about it from that practical standpoint, you come in as a dependent human person.
Mm-hmm.
And that dependency is because you were born to actually have to be in communication and communal with other people.
Yes.
That doesn't change throughout your entire life. But we have a middle passage, there's these middle when we get into maybe our late 20s, 30s or somewhere thereabouts, and we think we have our full act together, and therefore we are only going to do this, or we hold back information because we don't want others to succeed,
Absolutely.
or we do the things that compromise other people's success.
Mm-hmm.
We have planted remarkable destructive seeds in our future.
Yes.
There is, we don't call it karma. We call it you reap what you sow. And that is a principle in every part of our creation.
Mm-hmm.
So when people do that, it's very important to have them challenge themselves. When that happens to you and someone has come to hold you back, instead of getting angry and upset, take the power position of forgiveness and explain to them that I see what you're doing and I need to understand because I want you to feel empowered by a different way. I want you to befriend me in a different way. I want you to grow in your success that has nothing to do with my less success or my demise. I want it to be for you, by you, and I want to support you. So sometimes we have to run into the storm. We have to fly like the eagle right into the storm. But when an eagle flies into the storm, it's because they're moving faster to get to the other side.
Absolutely.
You ever think about someone who is not flying into the storm, but flying away from the storm? That storm is always chasing them. Until they turn around and look a hard look at themselves and realize it doesn't work, that storm will always be right behind them, chasing them. And you don't have eyes in the back of your head. We were not created that way. You don't know how close it's making ground on you, but eventually it will catch up. So that's the reap what you sow concept. So you might as well turn around, take a look, have the dialogue, and help that person become a better person by facing it without anger, without strife, and accept that people are walking in fear. Many, many times this is all about someone else's fear of lack or their inability to accomplish what they set out in their anger, or they're hiding behind the representative that someone has put on them that they should be successful or an achiever, when in fact they really want to be a student and they want to grow and they want to learn. So we have to be wiser in who we're dealing with in that regard.
I always believe in wisdom at the crossroads because of my younger self. And what I learned through corporate America and being a business owner is totally different than that younger self. There's wisdom, like I said, at the crossroads. And sometimes when you're in the thick of things, your elevation level is at a point where you can't see over the horizon. The point is to elevate yourself so you can elevate your perspective, thereby elevating others' perspective so that you can all thrive. But what I would say is, Lynda, that I have to say that the art of becoming who you are ultimately supposed to be requires a set of skills and abilities in a circle, a network of people who care about you to help you unlearn and unpack what society or your culture or your background has told you who you should be. And they put all these labels on you of, or limiting labels on you. That process of unlearning is a hurtful process because you ultimately have to forgive yourself so that you can move forward.
Oh, yeah. Learning to forgive yourself is the beginning of every single benefit that life has to offer you. It is training your mind to not run that movie of failure over and over and over again, or that hurt from someone else over and over and over again. or that sense of lack or self-deprivation or whatever it is that is negative over and over and over, coming to that place of forgiveness stops the process. And why that's really important, not just from a spiritual perspective, but from an actual physical perspective. Our minds, the way our mind works is that we build these receptors, and those receptors are strengthened by our thoughts based on our experiences. And the more we play this movie we play these scenarios in our head based on experiences, the things that actually some of them are just simply not real experiences. They are clips from the potential.
Ooh, that's
the
powerful.
more we play that clip from the potential that has nothing to do with our reality, it's the deeper dive, our mind builds a strengthening around it. It seeks to make that thing come true. And so why not forgive ourselves, cut the tie with that negativity? We're not saying forget. We're saying become educated around the fact that you don't have to harm yourself in your thought processes. Your failure yesterday is not predetermining about what your achievements on the next day. Your disappointments and what you need are really your inspiration for digging deeper and learning wider and going and supporting and getting the help that you need. There's no such thing as true failure if you're living every single day on the planet. You know what I mean? And so we have to think, we have to get a control of our minds in a way that's going to serve as our best tool for success. That is what we need to do. And I just love the concept of acute sensory perception, that we see what we're thinking more of. So it's this thing.
Yes.
When you go out and you see a red car that's a Lexus, all of a sudden, and you have an affinity for that, and you have meditated on that, or something has drawn you in, all of a sudden you're on the road and you're like, wait a minute, I am seeing so many red Lexuses. I have never seen this many red Lexus cars ever. Well, that is because your perception and your view and the amount of information your mind could take in and determine it as a priority has been reworked. Those Lexus cars were always there. That red Lexus car in particular was always there. You just did not see it. You did not notice it. It was not important enough. So our life experiences are such like that. And if we don't put a barrier up and put that unforgiveness in its proper place and get to the forgiveness, our acute sensory perception will always find the problem, the hurtful person, the lack and limitations, the situation that guides us and pulls us into not achieving, and then ultimately we can never get to our true authentic self. We are designed for success. We're designed for success. Every creature on the planet comes onto the planet doing what it's supposed to do. Only we as humans kind of get ourselves derailed.
Yeah.
And you have to ask yourself why. Because we have now allowed our external to not necessarily meet our internal mind power.
Yeah.
So that's the practice that I try really hard through meditation to quiet my mind, to learn. Some days I laugh at myself because then I have massive thoughts and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I can't even meditate. And I realize it's because I can't stop the conversation in my mind.
Yeah.
So then I start to have my mouth move, and I'm thinking, I hope nobody sees me, because then I all of a sudden go into a full-flame, verbal, audible conversation with myself, and then I'm out of meditation. I'm up and I'm out, and I'm like, that didn't work. So think of but I try again the next day.
I agree with you. And that I also agree with you that we are a society that learns on a need-to-know basis. And sometimes that gets in our way as well of really having perspective. I'm talking about elevating that perspective because I believe when you elevate people's perspective, the possibilities become limitless for their lives in achieving greatness. So when we talk about elevating perspective, what would you say is some of the things that specifically, let's speak to the group that we belong to, which is Black women, women of color, women, period. What are some things that they can do to improve their self-valuation?
Well, the first thing that we all have to do, particularly women, is to say to ourselves that we're deserving of even the process of improving our self-evaluation. You know, many women believe that they get what they deserve. And you're thinking to yourself, where did you get that notion from? Who put that on you? Why are you accepting that limitation? Why are you not accepting just every day do the best that you can do and that is good enough? No one is putting a scorecard on you. So we have to come to a place of honoring our daily existence as just a true gift. That day will never happen again in the history of yourself. Therefore, it already has a value in it. So now what we do in it, the activities in it, we have to find the next level of value. Does it create a new learning? Has it helped up another person? Does it satisfy a particular emotion in need and we feel good about it? Or did we just stay calm, cool, collected, and rested our mind so that we can be reflective? Are we are we connecting the dots around our health, around our wealth, around our families? You know, what are we modeling in ourselves? So there's a lot that goes into that self-evaluation. I like to read, and not a lot, so I cannot honestly say I'm like this huge avid reader. But I will buy 1,000,000 books and I will read here and there. Now you know I read your book because you just my girl. So I had to just feel honored. I had to feel like if you asked me and quizzed me, I'd be ready to talk about it. So I didn't want to be caught without my information on Tawanda Livingston, and particularly the one with the isms. I mean, we already know those isms. Trust me on that. So I would say find the single thing. Don't overwhelm. Some people are journalers. I am actually not. I've tried, and probably day number 3, I have like 4 words on the paper, and day number 4, I have the date, and by day number 5, I have nothing. It's a blank check. That's not my thing, you know, but reading clips, pulling information out, pasting, putting things into a memory book, that is my thing. The other is find the joy in who you are, because sometimes we just can't find it. We just can't find it. And if you can't find it, it's time to get some help. We cannot walk through this life believing that we have everything we need. You came into this world dependent on something and someone else. Why we need to believe that we're 100% independent in working out our issues or guiding us through a career, or just like I did with you, Tawanda, when I had a very difficult business issue, I called you and said, this is my issue. I need a perspective. I need your support. I need your ears and your heart and your mind to help me sort through this. And everything has worked out beautifully as a result. So those are the self-valuations that we need to carry into our day, to recognize the day as its own value, because we got it as a gift. And then to look at the tasks and the thoughts and the actions within that day as being something of value.
I truly believe also, Lynda, that there's fruit in every day. No matter, you could be going through the worst storm ever, but there's fruit in every day. And you have to be conscious enough to pick that fruit every day. And this is fruit that has been earmarked for you to help you in your state of becoming, because even in the midst, I believe that you're not alone. Your worst days, your worst devastations, I believe in a God that will not leave you in that storm. He is with you in that storm, with you in that circumstances. And then because I have faith and I walk in that faith, I believe there's fruit in every day. I believe that there's fruit in every day, whether it's fruit related to your well-being, your wealth, your business, your career, your family. I believe that you need to pick that fruit every day and don't miss it, because you, like you said, these moments, even the moments that we're spending here on this podcast, we will never be able to reclaim them. You can always earn more money, but you can't earn more time. So you have to put whatever you got in every moment that you're able to breathe on this side of heaven. I truly believe that.
And then you know what? Can I just say this? That recently I did a series for a women's organization on global relationships. And every day I'm noticing how putting that PowerPoint presentation together, it's coming back, those principles, to teach me even more so about global relationships and business, but that transcends any relationship, particularly the relationship with myself. I am so blessed to have you and other women in my life and other men in my life that have poured just millions of dollars in sweat equity and shaping a lot of my thoughts. And I've been open to it. So that has been the true benefit that I've received it. And I've been able to do the same to other women. Those relationships is the true, beautiful currency that we need to think of as being more valuable than the dollars and the cents.
Amen.
It's the currency of relationships.
Yes.
The better and more stronger and more authentic those relationships are, the wealthier you are in your currency.
Wow.
Because when you have those relationships that you can rely on, that you can cash in on, if you want to use the, kind of keep the analogy going, or you can rest on, that's what's going to carry you into the next.
Yes. Yes.
Some may literally be a relationship where you have to rely on someone to help give you money if you need it. But if it's not the monetary, it's the spiritual. If it's not the spiritual, it's the physical. If it's not the physical, it's the mental support. And that is what creates who we are as human beings. It is that critical relationship.
I truly believe that, because I believe in making deposits in emotional bank accounts of people and building those relationships through the emotional bank accounts, making sure I'm making more deposits than I do with withdrawals, so that I can have that trusted and loyal relationship, because you never know. You never know who you're going to need, when, where, and why. But the fact that you have that relationship currency, or that relationship capital, if you want to call it, with folks that you can tap into is invaluable. You can't put a price on it. You're absolutely right. Now, Lynda, as we're getting near to the end of this particular episode, I do want you to share a couple things. We're going to go through those couple things. The first thing I want you to share is, what tips do you have for women who are either women business owners or women in the workplace who find themselves in a toxic situation, a toxic environment? Some tips to help them to pull themselves out of that toxicity.
Wow. Now, you would ask me that question. I would.
Look, that was coming. I had to get that one in there.
You had to get that question in there, because I was just hanging on the reality of what you said about pouring, into someone's spirit, that capital, and you have done that with me. So I could answer the question in this way. Dealing with toxicity inside of the workplace. Let's just start with that one. Yeah. First of all, you have to really take a self-assessment to do a couple of things. One, how are you contributing? You have to be honest with yourself. Am I somewhere a contributor into this situation? Let's check that box. Not really. Or if you are, do some homework on yourself to clean that mess up. Because sometimes we always want to indict other people when we really should be focusing on our own selves. The second is, if it's something that's unfair, it is inappropriate, it is illegal, or it is devastatingly wrong, then we need a trusted partner to come to be able to get that issue out onto the table and then strategize. We can no longer believe that we can sit within our own mind and come up with our own answers. We just simply need the relationships of a trusted confidant, a professional, another business person, someone that if they listen to you, they can walk with you through the journey of strategizing around how to appropriately deal with it. Doesn't mean you're always going to fly off the handle and get upset or throw out the baby with the bathwater. You have to be strategic. That's 2. And then 3, dealing with toxicity sometimes means you have to go in and do the surgery yourself.
Whoa.
You have to go right to the source and pull them in a way that makes whoever is the subject. I'm not talking about things like sexual harassment. There's a guideline for things like that. I'm not talking about discrimination. There are guidelines and organizations that you follow to deal and mitigate those situations. I'm talking about the more covert backstabbing, the reality of taking your ideal and making it someone else's, the issue of disparaging someone and you're not clear, but your spirit tells you something because people begin to act differently around you, and therefore your promotion has been compromised. Or those kinds of situations that you can't quite get your hand around. There's no policy, there's no procedure, and there's no practice and norm around it. Now, I'm talking about those things.
Yes.
That you have to then get strategic around how you're going to handle it.
Yeah.
I wish we could tell the story of how we dealt with it, but I know we can't. I sure wish I could, but we were strategic.
That's a whole podcast with many episodes.
That's another podcast, and we have to change the names, or we have to change the names to protect the innocent and the guilty. But when I say being strategic, I don't mean be sneaky. I mean be clear about your strategy and your war plan. That's what we do as a nation when we have to go into war or we have to deal with the economy. We've got to be strategic. We can't go and do all kind of willy-nilly things. Same thing in your independent situation. Get to someone that can support you, can identify. Become clear about the situation with a level, clear head. No emotion. Emotion will take you down the slippery slope of succumbing to it and losing your power in that process.
Yes.
Forgiving whoever and whatever has happened so that you can gain clarity on how you're going to deal with it. Strategy may mean you have to give the apology because whoever says, I'm sorry, is actually the holder of the power.
Yes.
So those are the things that I have found. I have found that I need to be strategic. I need to be level-headed. So I'm not blindsided. I've got all my information. I need to be accurate about when I'm coming to either an authority or to someone who's going to support me in developing the best strategy. And you know what? And then at the end of the day, in my career of late, or not too long ago, I had to really challenge myself. I had to ask myself, do I really want to work where I'm working if this is how the leadership is behaving? And make some hard personal decisions. It wasn't a matter of running away. It was a matter of running towards a better destiny that I could control.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Those are some of the things, yes.
Will they also apply for women who, or anyone who finds themselves in a toxic partnership or toxic agreement with customers?
Tawanda Livingston, Tawanda. Your viewer, your listeners will need to really understand, particularly your women entrepreneurs. Sometimes what looks like a good thing is not always a good thing.
Not all money is good money.
Not all money is good money. And sometimes I had a recent experience where someone wanted a share of our business in order to be in a position of introducing our company to potential large customers. They knew the value of our technology. They knew the value of our future, and they wanted a stake in it. They wanted shares. They wanted ownership.
Wow.
And we put ourselves in a position of actually saying, okay. I was very, very hesitant. As a matter of fact, I said no. But when you're in a partnership, sometimes you have to not necessarily be the partner that always says no. Sometimes you have to say yes and be in deep prayer. We were in deep prayer, and within 4 days of signing an agreement for having part of our company, actually a division in Class B shares, within 4 days that entire partnership disintegrated.
Wow.
We were blessed.
God wasn't in that situation. He was in it.
God was all over it. It was when you find things are difficult and you are in a situation that isn't comfortable, or even if you're in a joint venture or a partnership and things are, you just can't work out the details, or you have partners that are bickering with one another, there is a problem. You have to step back. And fortunately, we were able to get a reprieve and get that cancer out of our organization. We were so happy to get that dissolution letter. You have no idea. We rejoiced that day.
I know that's right.
Yes. We were like, yes, no problem. We don't want you in our business, no problem. And now, let me say something. They are looking at us because we have moved to a whole nother stage of success. And we are grateful. And each stage of success, and we have done that now 3 times in those kind of situations. We have learned the hard way, and sometimes we do.
Yes.
Every time we have, every one of those situations have exited out of our business, our business has grown even further.
You're learning.
Yes, we learned. We learned the hard way, but we learned the great way. And sometimes you have to come, the butterfly does not come out from a caterpillar to a butterfly because somebody broke the cocoon. If you break the cocoon thinking you're helping, you're going to kill the caterpillar. It will never be the butterfly.
It will never be the butterfly.
It will never be the butterfly.
And you can't help the butterfly out of the cocoon because in that process of coming out of the cocoon, that's how they build their strength to survive. That's how they build the strength of their wings and their ability to thrive. I remember the story where the little girl helped the butterfly out of the cocoon, and it died quickly. And that's because it had to go through that process of becoming to help build its emotional muscle and physical muscle in order to thrive. So you guys have been tested and tried by the fire only to be like the phoenix and rise out of the fire. I love it. I love it. I love the thought that when you say sometimes you have to do surgery on yourself. That's a powerful statement. That's a Tawandaism right there. That's a
Tawandaism. I knew I would get one in at least.
Yeah, I love it. And so before we get to the wrap-up stage, and I know we're getting close to that time, I'm going to read a quote to you, and I want your immediate response to this quote. It's a quote by Anne, I believe her last name is Beeler, and it says, "Have faith in God. It will make you dig deeper and become a better leader."
You have to have faith in God. There is a walkway, there's a pathway, there's a plan. It's just so fundamental. Sometimes we make it so much more difficult. And trust me, I am at the front of the line and trying to make it difficult. Are you with me? You're with me at the front of the line?
I'm in the front of the line.
Okay, so I don't know, maybe, listen, I'm at the front of the line, if there's even such a position. I'm at the front of the line.
I'm carrying a sign and wearing a T-shirt.
And you know what? That's because now we have shed the T-shirts, we have shed the banner, we have shed our position of being first in the line. We have, in other words, come to a place of letting God guide our lives and not let ourselves guide our lives.
Amen.
And because of that, that we are the head and not the tail. We are the uncompromised creation that He created us in His perfection. And we are the future creation because every single day we are recreated. Our bodies go through a regeneration at night. We need rest in order to build the chemicals that allow our body to heal, restore, and be prepared for the next day. We are already evolving every single day. Our cells regenerate, our minds regenerate, and our opportunities, therefore, regenerate. We are magnetic, energetic beings. We literally are. And so we know that through the Bible, and we know that through science. So if we want to go there, we can go there, but that's the truth. And because of that, we attract the things to us that we need, want, or that we don't want. It's a choice. It's a practice, and it's a belief. And I love it, just like I love you.
Oh, I love you too. And I believe, just to piggyback on what you said, I believe that each day you open your eyes, and you're one of the fortunate people who open their eyes, you get a fresh supply of grace. And that grace is not only God's grace on you, but the grace that flows through you. And people need to use some of that grace on themselves and be kind to themselves as well. So as we wrap up, I have to ask you to share
Mm-hmm.
Orange Wall. You got to tell us about your business, how people can get in contact with you.
Thank you.
Business,
yes.
And how they can reach you for other services.
Well, as you mentioned in your opening, part of my bio is the Dorman Group Holdings, which was formerly the Dorman Group when I worked deeply with you, and always grateful for that. Evolved into a subsidiary and then a separately co-owned business called Orange Wall Enterprises, in which we use my ability to do procurement and supply chain management and consulting to help nonprofits. This is really actually how it started, to help nonprofits navigate their way through buying PPE. So the small clinical organizations, the nursery schools, those organizations that were about to get left out of the process because all of the PPE was going into large medical centers, and I could see what was happening, the big gulf that was about to happen. So my heart was to support and teach them how to order their own supplies, how to conduct inventory management so they would always stay on par, and how to negotiate better prices.
Wow.
That parlayed into doing just those services for family and friends, and then big clients, and then even bigger clients. And then one day I wanted to incorporate our world with technology. And so we were blessed to sign a distributorship for our own private label, standalone kiosk, if you will, thermal reader, temperature reading station called Orange Thermal Control. So Orange Thermal Control. People can learn about that particular product if they go on www.orangethermalcontrol.com. And that has allowed businesses and municipalities that have purchased, and schools to support their reopening plans, churches to support their reopening plans, as we are all taking temperatures of those who are entering into buildings. This is a viable technology that uses machine learning, or what we now call machine learning, artificial intelligence, and robotics. It has a very strong software and integration with not only smart cards, but also QR code readers and label printout. But it's also a warehouse for data to help contact tracing initiatives, so that when you have individuals walking into your place of business, and all of a sudden someone has contracted or become infected with COVID, and you have to shut down your building, we now have data that can give us a pinpoint of when that person may have entered and where they may have moved in your building.
Wow.
So it allows for support. Because the software is such, and the way we have it's been constructed, we have a future forward product that can then move into more different types of health screening in the future. So it has a life beyond COVID. For those screenings that we can screen through the eyes, particularly all the cardiovascular issues that you can screen for through the eyes. So we want this to be as commonplace as when you go into your local drugstore and you go into the pharmacy and you sit down and you take your blood pressure, you need to come and get your temperature read. That's how we want to see this across the country. And it's been proof of concept has long since happened in Europe. We were very fortunate to work with the factory, which is one of the owners of the company that launched this in Europe a couple of years ago through robotics and robots. So the technology is older. We've just put it inside of a kiosk, standalone kiosk, so that it can be used. And we're just so pleased at how it's been received. And we also continue to sell critical PPE products, specifically gloves and mask examination gloves and masks. And we're selling those into the billions. So we're at a very high level of selling, so that we can help municipalities and small countries even to literally be in a position to receive, treat, and support their patients who are coming into the hospital, not only with COVID, but are returning to the hospital, we hope, to get all kinds of treatments, because we now have a whole nother health paradigm where people are not accessing health care because they're afraid. So I want to encourage your listeners to access your healthcare systems for your appointments, your regular appointments, and any needs that you would have in your community that would take you to the hospital or a normal appointment. don't wait for COVID to be over to get your normal health screenings and so forth.
Absolutely.
So we're very, very happy about that. OrangeWallEnterprises.com is a resource if you want to know about the latest in our local community here, which is Prince George's County, on the numbers of cases and other statistics, as well as the Johns Hopkins University global dashboard. In addition to our products, you can learn about that as well, where we are in the world in terms of cases and other statistics. Or you can just go directly to orangethermalcontrol.com for our what we call our headline product. It's our technology that we're so proud of. And we're excited. Yeah, absolutely.
Congratulations. What
Thank
an awesome. Orange Wall Enterprises is just a superstar. It's a nova. It's hope in a time of despair and discouragement. That's why it was so vital for me to make sure you were featured on Broken Brilliance, because of your journey to this point and the journey that's ahead, which is, I am positive that it's going to be immeasurable success for you and your partner and your business and anything you put your hands on. I like the aspect of Orange Wall reaching out to smaller countries as well as smaller communities that may continue to be in deserts, whether it's food deserts, health deserts, economic deserts, but you're going to go in to help them to reclaim their health. And that's a great, great position to be in. We thank you for that. Now,
it's my heart to do it. Yep, the last.
You have any last thoughts before we wrap up this session?
My only last thought is to just be in a place of gratitude towards you. And I know your executive producer. She was so wonderful when we had our first conversation, Gail.
Gail Flowers, executive producer.
Yes, because sometimes even those who are behind the scenes need to be brought out to the front and the forward because they work very hard. And I just want to applaud both of you to even have the idea of doing the podcast. I am just going to just claim it as a huge success for you because not only do you deserve it, but you have something worthy to contribute that's going to change the paradigm for a lot of women, just like you did me. And so I just want to say thank you and let my last words be the first, and that is my thank you to you and the gratitude that I have and hold. I totally respect every single thing you did. And please never, never, never stop my emails. I mean, I would just feel very, very challenged in my day if I did not get my daily emails and my Tawanda-isms. And I encourage people to get your book. So if you haven't promoted that,
Lynda,
you better do that.
They can definitely have my book, Grit, Grind, and Grace, activated on Amazon.com. We definitely, if they need their daily dose of inspiration, motivation, and activation, that's the book to have to help them in their stages of becoming the best and most blessed person they can possibly be, like yourself. And I appreciate you sharing your brilliance with us this episode, and we look forward to following your journey and your continuous success.
Thank you for tuning in to the Broken Brilliance podcast with your host, Tawanda Livingston, CEO of Livingston Works, for your emotional, mental, and business tune-ups. Support our guest speakers by following them on social media, visiting their websites, and purchasing their goods or services. You've been inspired, you've been motivated, you've been activated to move differently in your business and life with unwavering expectations. It's your time to shine. Arrest and cancel self-sabotage, self-defeat, self-hate, and every negative thought, and continuously unlock your purpose, passion, and possibilities. You have been equipped with an arsenal of inspiration and motivation to be an overcomer, a conqueror, an achiever, because you, my friend, are brilliantly broken. Remember to like, share, and tune into the next episode of Broken Brilliance.